Swinging a ground ball, stabbed by Folk. He has it. He underhands to first, and the Boston Red Sox are the world champions for the first time in 86 years.
Together they have, and together they stand alone on top of the mountain for now. And once again, the Boston Celtics stand alone for all time. It is banner 18.
No icing. For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
And a title for the Patriots!
I can't believe it!
They have completed the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history.
Good afternoon, listeners. Welcome into episode 50 of a New Era podcast. My name is Hanson, better known as Fryddy online, and I am joined here by my dad and co-host, the OG Frid. Dad, would you like to say hello to the listeners on this episode 50, finally?
Episode 50. Yeah, when we started this almost a year ago, who would ever thought 50 consecutive, almost as many episodes as my age. It's been wonderful. It's been great. Thank you, newbies. Thank you for everyone that's listened to us. Yeah, I guess thank you to our producer there, Fryddy. I mean, dealing with setting this up, downloading all the things that you do in the background. First and foremost, putting up with my shit.
Comes with the territory. I was just thinking here, it makes more sense, like, mathematically, the older you grow, the faster the years go by and everything.
Yeah.
And this year, it even I felt like 2024 has flown by. We're almost 2 weeks away from it being done and getting into 2025. But one thing that I don't feel like flew by was the 50 episodes. I mean, it's almost aged the year. And it's crazy to think about 50 episodes, 50 straight weeks. I mean, your number one son and dad podcast, Boston news, anything that you could get. It's awesome. It's been super fun. Like we said on social media, when I put out the Spotify Wrapped and stuff, very, very blessed and thankful for a great 2024, great first 50 episodes now. And super excited to see what 2025 brings us in a couple of weeks.
Exactly. And this is not yet, guys, this is not the end of the year farewell. We were just talking before, we're going to find a Christmas week show with a guest that we'll have as well, that I met last week. So I think an exciting guest for you ECU fans. Yeah, I mean, it's not done yet. We still got a couple more, and then leading up to what is it? Probably 6 weeks before we have our 1 year.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say, and I'm going to check this too while I'm saying this. I feel like our first episode was like January 17th. Let me see when that exactly was. January 14th. And then we had our second episode on the 17th because we did 2 episodes that first week.
Yeah.
And then we got into the weekly episodes. But yeah, about less than a month until a full year of a new era. That is crazy to think about. And we really couldn't do it without you listeners, the consistent love that you guys show us and consistent listening. And we are so thankful for it. And I don't think our words could really express how thankful we are.
Oh gosh, no. It's fun too, doing my day job and speaking into, going out vacations or speaking to people that I know that I've become friendly with through my day job and telling them about the podcast. And got one good friend that lives here in the neighborhood that listened to us, and just, the excitement that you guys get from listening to us. Yeah, it's amazing. And now I get Mike to send me text messages. Ooh, did you hear about this? Did you see this? So he gets excited.
Well, yes, very thankful for that. And Dad, you want to know what else I'm thankful for? Garrett
You're
Crochet being
thankful.
a Boston
Yeah.
Red Sox. That is the biggest news of the week. Last week and leading up to this, we've been talking about how we need a splash, need to make a move. We were in on the Juan Soto sweepstakes, and that was kind of putting all of MLB free agency at a hold as we all awaited the news. Then Soto goes out, signs with the Mets, and it's like, all right, well, we've still got all this money. The ownership says we want to go out and spend. We want to be aggressive. We got to see it. Blake Snell went, and then Max Fried goes to the Yankees, which was kind of a big fuck you to us because we had been linked to him for so long. And Yankees were just so sad that they couldn't retain Juan Soto because he doesn't want to play there, that they had to go and step on our toes and take Fried. It wasn't very nice, but we said, all right, right back at you. We'll go get the best pitcher on the trading market, I would think. There's a couple of them up there with Dylan Cease from San Diego that I heard us linked to, Luis Castillo in Seattle, and then Garrett, obviously. But we make the move and finally make a splash. It's felt like a while since we've seen something like this. I mean, even dating back to, Trevor Story's contract, which was one of the bigger things that we've done in recent off seasons. To compare that to this, it still feels like a fraction of the pitching move that we were able to make. So it was nice to finally see the Red Sox, back up their words here, back up what they were saying, actually go out and make a move. I thought I had all of the trade details in this article. I guess I don't, but the biggest ones in the trade that I do know was Kyle Teal, and now I'm blanking.
Montgomery.
Thank you. Braden Montgomery and Kyle Teal. If you've listened to this podcast throughout the year, you've known how much we have been so excited for Kyle Teal and had already crowned him the catcher of the future for the Red Sox. And we were very invested in him, from dating back to what we saw at Virginia. Great hitter, great defensive guy. He was a great prospect in the system. But you and me talked about this over the phone last week after the trade. If you were going to move one of those big four, as it was able to be called after Christian Campbell's resurgence this year, Teal was most likely the one to move. Montgomery hurts a little bit too, but at the same time, we were going to end up having a logjam in the outfield anyways. Sadly,
with Abreu,
with Duran most likely staying now, both of them. Duran was mentioned this last week to be untouchable by the Red Sox. That was something I wanted to bring up. So that was very, very nice to see.
I tweeted that.
Yeah. And Abreu, whereas honestly, I thought maybe in a trade, this sort of trade, we would have seen him in a Cassius or something like that. To be able to keep both of those guys and still make this deal, I'm very happy with what happened. I was looking through trade grades of this, so seeing B- to B+ for the Red Sox. I know, people aren't giving us an A because of the fact that it's Teal and Braden, and those are two of our top 5 prospects in the system. But at the same time, let's remember, we might have been selling Braden at his highest at this point. He is still coming off an injury. We're going to have a logjam in the outfield. If you can include him in a deal like this off the name value alone and be able to get a pitcher of this caliber with still 2 years of team control, and then that extra ability to be the first one to offer him the contract extension, I'm very happy with how this worked out and how they're hopefully going to be able to shape the rest of this, starting five for the pitchers, regardless if it's maybe a move on Burns in free agency still, as we're all awaiting the news on that. If we miss out on him, maybe a Jack Flaherty, or maybe you do continue to go out and make a trade for Castillo or something like that. But just off of Crochet alone and the fit that you think he brings to this team, how excited are you for this? And where do you envision him falling into our rotation? Is he the one? Does he come in as the one already? Are they going to continue to have Houck there and put him as a two? How do you see that going down?
Well, I think some of the additional points being made. I liked how you said his salary, because you looked it up, was rather low for the quality pitcher that he is under contract. So that's very positive. One other thing I didn't talk to you about on the phone, and I was thinking about it while we were talking on the phone, and thinking about even more now. Yeah, you gave up Teal and Montgomery, but remember, they fell, both of them, to us in the draft. For whatever reasons, injuries that they had in college. So if you have the opportunity, it wasn't like we went out and drafted. I mean, yes, we did draft them, but they fell to us. If you have that ability for some stars to fall to you, why not? I mean, it was they were found money, really, to be able to get Crochet, who will be our one, which I also like. Now you go left, right, back and forth between him and Hulk. I mean, yeah, and I saw when I jumped on here 17 minutes ago, it talked about us being the lead for Corbin Burns. I mean, even if you get him, you move Hulk to a 3, which he and anybody's I would probably say 12 major league teams out there, he'd be your 1. If you could put him as your 3, that's fantastic for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I'm very excited for it. I am one, when I think of a 1, when I think of a guy that I want as my ace, there are so many numbers and so many analytics that go into baseball nowadays, but one of the ones that you can never, just brush under the table or anything is K rate. And Crochet is one of the highest upside strikeout pitchers in the league. Even playing with the shitty Sox last year, he was still putting up unbelievable numbers. And I saw a lot of Red Sox Twitter this last week, complaining about, oh, well, we haven't seen him for a full year. He only threw like 146 innings last year. That was by design. The White Sox knew what they had in him. The White Sox also knew that they were not winning games. So why risk the injury on a guy that now, looking back on it, brought in Kyle Teal and Brady Montgomery for you, along with 2 other prospects. So he was shut down. He was getting pulled after the second time through the order. Not anything on him, just how coaching and how they had it set up. So I'm not worried about anything like that. Once you bring him into a team and an organization like us, that he's going to have a better supporting cast around him. But he's going to be able to completely fly past that 146 inning mark, I think, this year, and really show everybody, how good he could be in a full year with a good team, with that K upside. And I'm super stoked about this one. Like I said, there were grades like a B-, a B+. I'm fine with that. We're going to be looking back on this in a year, and I think those B- and B+ are going to turn into A- very quickly.
A's. Oh yeah, absolutely. And if you have him starting off a series, even if you don't end up getting Corbin Burns, but you have him with that high K out ratio that you were talking about, and then following up with, Hulk, Tanner with how he was striking people out. I mean, you could throw out a knuckleballer in game 3 and they're going to be like, what the hell? You know, I know that you were mentioning if we don't get, you know, Corbin Burns or Luis Castillo, you know, kick the tires back on Pavetta. You know, he is a different pitcher as well. Whoever is going to be number 3 with that different stuff, after you follow those 2, you're going to do very well.
Yeah, like it's not something as much to think about in the regular season. You're playing 162 games. These pitchers are going to see a lot of these teams, especially in the division a lot of times. But, you know, in this day and age in baseball, with how some of these top teams stack up, especially pitching wise, you build a 5 for a team that can win a best of 5 and a best of 7, right? And you're only going to see all those guys once if it goes well for you, maybe 2 times. But yes, like you're saying, the difference between, you know, a Crochet game 1 and then a Hout game 2 or a Burns game 3 or something like that. And the best part about it, you know, we're just throwing Houck in there at the 3 spot because that's how it's been projected or anything. But let's not forget this guy was still an all-star. He was unbelievable last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with having potentially 3 guys of that caliber pitching for you, those top 3, you could mix and match them however you choose. You know, whoever needs the rest or whatever you feel like is going to be a better matchup for that day. And then at the same time, oh yeah, don't forget, we've still got Brian Bayo. We'll still have Lucas Giolito coming off an injury who, yes, people are forgetting about Giolito because he didn't play last year. He had, I believe, the Tommy John surgery. But if you go back 2 years, back again with the White Sox, Giolito was great 2 years ago. And that's why we gave him the money to sign him to the 2-year last year. And then at the same time, oh, maybe Giolito doesn't come in and he can't start to be in that 5 right away. Okay, well, then we continue to have Cutter Crawford in there at the 5. I'm very happy where our pitching staff is right now. I'm very excited for
Garrett Whitlock comes back.
I was about to say Garrett too. I'm very excited for where it's at now because of Cutter and Garrett that can be in there if you need them to. And I'm very excited for how it could continue to build because I don't think by any means we're done. Whether it's going to be a bat or a pitcher or both potentially. But I think we're set up very well by getting Crochet and not having to move any of Mayer or Anthony or Campbell and keeping those guys in the farm system. I mean, that's the number 1, like 3 and 7 prospects in baseball right now that have still yet to see an inning of MLB, which is just unbelievable. We're in a great spot. It's just a matter of making these last, whether it's 1 or 2 big moves this offseason to really address the other stuff. I think the Red Sox are really set up, you know, coming off an 81 year to make a huge jump. You know, the Orioles are still going to be a problem in the AL East. They are still good, but without Burns, you know, they might take a hit. Yes, the Yankees added Fryd and they just traded for, I think, Cody Bellinger last night. But I don't know if the Yankees are going to be that good. I'm not that scared of them without a Soto. You know, with them losing them this year, you know, the Yankees are still going to be the Yankees, but whereas this year, I think we lost the season series to them. I could definitely see that switching next year. And just by beating them in the season series, that could be what edges us out in terms of the AL East rankings at the end of the year. So I like where we're setting up. I'm just holding my breath waiting for another move, and it would be fucking awesome if we saw one happen while we're recording here today. But speaking of moves, I just want to bring this up. Bleacher Report walk-off. It's one of Bleacher Report's accounts that just cover baseball and everything like that. They put out some contract predictions for the remaining big free agents. This was on the 14th, so 2 days ago. They do have Corbin Burns going to the Red Sox. on a 6-year, $218.5 million deal. The other one that I know we've been eyeing for a while, and I want to get one of these two, was Alex Bregman. They have him 8 years, $216 million to the Detroit Tigers. So if you can't get Burns for the 218.5, you can then afford Bregman at that same price for 8 years. So I think we still get one of the two. I think something that is not being talked about enough in terms of Alex Bregman is the fact that we got to remember he played under Alex Cora for a while. And Alex Cora has been, nothing but hyping him up over the last couple weeks, and his versatility, his defensive versatility, and how he would be able to play second base, as some people are talking about, or he comes in and plays third and Devers goes to a DH or whatever it may be. I think there's a lot of ways that we can fit in these guys that's going to help us. And I'm truly very excited about it. And I'm just waiting for the next domino to fall for the Red Sox. Hopefully this week.
I saw, excuse me, per Sports Illustrated, it said 7 minutes ago that Alex Bregman could be going to the Sox. And I did see something as well that the Corbin Burns was getting close, but it was up to $255 million.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hey, and we let Valdez go.
We did. I just saw that earlier. Emmanuel Valdez in a trade for the Pirates, or with the Pirates, for minor league pitching prospect Joe Vagatsky. Vagatsky, 22, selected in the 19th round of the 2024 draft. Right-handed pitcher at James Madison for 4 college seasons, posting a 9-9 record with a 5.24 ERA, 14 saves and 68 appearances in 7 starts. So a guy that could start for you, a guy that, 14 saves also shows you that he can come in late in the game and could potentially help us with the bullpen. We were talking about last week with the Chapman edition, how we do need to make a little more moves there and help out the bullpen a little bit. So maybe that was the idea behind this, and moving Valdez for this minor league guy that hopefully, maybe it's not at the start of next year, but sometime throughout the season, or, once your roster expands for the playoffs, you see him potentially to help out in the bullpen. Very exciting stuff. And I think they're making all the right moves. I think it's the first time in a couple of years now where, you're seeing this stuff and you're like, all right, the Red Sox are on the right path. They are doing the right things here. They just got to continue along the path that is right in front of them. And I think they know that. And I think that's what they're doing. About Alex Bregman, I had pulled up something as well 24 minutes ago, right before we started. It was on Sports Illustrated Houston Astros, but it said Alex Bregman leaving Houston Astros, joining Red Sox, becoming a real possibility. And almost more of a possibility now that the Astros moved on from Kyle Tucker. Is it time that the Astros are finally saying, all right, maybe our window's done. Maybe we got to move on from these guys. Who knows? Maybe Altuve would be next, or probably not. I think Altuve would probably be an Astro until he retires for what he's done for that team. But, you move on from a Kyle Tucker. You don't re-sign a Bregman. What does that team look like? It's a shell of itself, and it's a shell of the teams that have won the World Series there in Houston. And quite frankly, if I'm Bregman at this point in my career, I don't want to go back to that. I want to go to a contender, a team that I can be part of a good contending window with. And I mean, we've been talking about this for weeks now with, the guys in our farm system, with the top 3, with some of the young guys we already have in the lineup. Whereas other teams would love a window for 3 to 5 years to try to get 1 to 2 chips, and they'd be happy with that. Our window could fully extend to 2035 at this point. And I don't feel like that is too crazy to say with the youth that we have in the system, the youth that we have on the team currently, and the youth in our pitching. now with Crochet and Hauk and all these other guys, Bayo in there. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would love to see Burns. I really would. I feel like if you'd have to tell me to pick one or which one do I see being more of a realistic possibility, I do think it's Bregman. I think personally he wants to go here. I think the connection with Cora makes sense. I think he would only be more open to playing second here because of how much Cora has talked him up there. And I think everything just points to eventually Bregman being a Boston Red Sox. It might not be by the end of this week, but I do feel like he signs before the new year. And I would not be surprised if he is in Boston for the next 6 to 8 years.
I'm just worried if he goes to second, that's going to then stifle Kristen Campbell's advancement into our team, our Red Sox team.
It could, but remember, Campbell can also play outfield. I think if Bregman comes with the idea that he wants to play second, I think we see another move after that. I don't think they do that and just kind of fill in the rest of the holes. I think we see another move if Bregman does sign. While I was talking about, it was great to be able to keep Cassius and Abreu without, not having to move either of them for Crochet. I think if we get Bregman and he wants to play second, one of them is moved. And if that's the case, Campbell can go in there to the outfield if it is Abreu and fill in that spot. If it isn't Abreu and if it's Cassius, well then, okay, Bregman gets to play at the hot corner where he's played all of his life. He probably feels the most comfortable. Devers moves over to first, and then Cassius is moved and Campbell gets to go in there at second. So I do feel like with Bregman signing, it does mean there will be another move. And I think that's what the Red Sox are trying to figure out right now. It's, do we commit the money to Burns? Do we overpay him a little bit now just to get the deal done? And then potentially lose out on Bregman or hope that he takes a discount? I don't think he will. Or do you get the Bregman deal done first? And then do you make a trade for the Castillo or the Cease or something like that and not have to invest the money in Burns? Still, some of those guys, I think Castillo and Cease are on bigger contracts. They're not on contracts as big as what you would have to give to Burns, but you're still going to save some money. And then you can fill in, the rest of your bullpen with, veteran minimums and just some bargain bin guys that can fill in the rest of the bullpen,
I did see also a rumor that still had us with the Cardinals, a trade with the Cardinals.
Yeah, for Arenado. And that would make some sense, but only in the case that I think we don't sign Bregman, unless, who knows, maybe you take Bregman at third, maybe you put Arenado at first, Devers plays a DH, and you still move on from Cassius. Cassius would probably be involved in the deal for Arenado.
Yep. Or you can find something else to get him gone and then even use Cassius in for Castillo in St. Louis or in Seattle, which I think makes better sense for the Mariners. But the positive thing is we have enough chips if we need to lose Campbell, which we wouldn't want, or Abreu, we can afford to do so if we get Bregman on board. If you get him on board, you can move these other guys because you have the flexibility and as well as the chips to make some more moves.
Let's not forget too, because I did up until I just thought about this now. Leading into this, we were talking about Yoshida being a part of one of these deals. He's still a chip that could be moved, and I think he does get moved. Because he did play our DH and he could play the outfield. You move him, and that brings up potentially another spot for Campbell. Or I just think there's so many ways to go about this, and it's some people would see it as uneasy, and it's like, oh fuck, what are we gonna do? I look at it as a plus. There are so many ways to get to the destination that we want to be at, because like you're saying, we have so many chips, and I am fine with almost anything that happens as long as those big three in the farm system are not touched right now, honestly. And Duran.
Yeah.
And I think it goes without saying, and Devers, but he's obviously never moving. We didn't extend him for 11 years for nothing. So,
and if we do end up moving Abreu, I would not mind seeing, well, you could either put Roman Anthony or Jarren Duran out and right.
Yeah, I think it would be
center. And we're totally forgetting Sedane Rafaela.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. This team is
that's another guy that we defensively fell in love with, and he's at a long contract, but yet it could be an affordable contract. We wouldn't think you'd want to get rid of him because of defensibility in center, but if you have Campbell coming up,
yeah,
you could get rid of him. I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I don't want to, and I don't think they will. Just because, like you're saying, that contract is so team friendly for us. And I think there's some part of Sedane that's, these guys believed in me so quickly and extended me for 8 years. I don't want to go. I don't know if right now his spot is the shortstop. Maybe Trevor Story will be our opening day shortstop. Maybe it is going to be Zidane. And if, we don't make a move for Bregman and we keep a Cassius or something like that, maybe Story is a DH, because, love the guy. But he definitely had some defensive woes last year. He was kind of losing his touch.
And keep him in, and away from injuries, playing that DH role.
Exactly. All right. Well, that's, we went on a little bit of a tangent there for him, but just a lot of news, a lot of off-season stuff, and the gears are turning, man. And I'm very excited. I'm ready for these dominoes to start falling in place. And as of right now, I am very excited for the opening day 2025 Boston Red Sox roster.
I'm sitting here chuckling and laughing, to think about 50 episodes ago, we were contemplating when we were talking about starting this, what are we going to do in June and July? And now, 50 episodes later, we're like, we want to see our Red Sox. We can't wait till opening day.
And not even just that. I mean, even as far as 20 episodes ago, we had almost wrote off the 2025 season. We were talking about how excited we were for the 2026 opening day roster for the Red Sox. And now it's 2025 opening day cannot come fast enough. No, it's great stuff. And for an ownership group and everything that was definitely losing touch with the fans recently, over the last 6 years since the World Series, honestly. I mean, the amount of people that are calling for their heads, telling them to sell the team. And now, you make one trade and you're in on two big free agents. And now it's like, oh, these guys have brought back in. Maybe we experienced pain over these last 6 years since the World Series for this reason exactly. And it's really encouraging to finally see the Red Sox care about their fucking fans and care about their team.
Can we thank Liverpool for not doing so well right now?
I guess.
Maybe John Henry's like, yep, let's go back to the States. Let's worry about it.
I don't give a fuck about the soccer team. Let's go back and let's go back to baseball. We are the Fenway Sports Group after all. All right then. Let's move on to the Bruins here. After such a week in which we were so high off them last week, off an undefeated one, I had been talking about this Winnipeg Jets game for about 3 weeks. And then it happened, and I wish I never fucking spoke about it. Once again, we got our shit kicked in by a good team, by an elite team in the NHL, 8-1. That one hurt. Swayman, I believe, started this game, and yeah, just fucking horrific. There's not much I want to say about this game at all, to be fair. Same thing with Seattle. You know, you bring Corpuzalo in there, you lose 5-1. I don't know if it's still the team, just the hangover of giving up 8 goals 2 days before. But in the span of 48 hours, you lose 13-2 combined, which is, you know, not the best, but it was very encouraging to see us completely flip the script against the Canucks on Saturday. A good team, not up to the caliber of the Jets or anything, I don't think, but beat them 5-1. Brad Marchand had an unbelievable game. 7 shots on goal, by the way, by him. You know, we've been talking about the shots on goals numbers going up for the last couple of weeks, and that's what we would want to see. You know, you need to put on more offensive pressure, and they definitely did that in the game. This team is weird, though, man. It's like, you know, like I said, we can get so high off of 1 week, and then you go from getting outscored 13-2 and then winning 5-1. It's just like the highs and lows of being a Bruins fan this year is just confusing. But at the same point, you're still only 5 points back from first in the Atlantic. We feel like this is not a failed season, but definitely not a good season so far. But you are still within reach and still currently in the playoff picture, granted by a point over the Lightning, and you have 4 games above them right now. One thing I'm looking at here, though, that completely stands out to me, just jumps off the page. Are you looking
at that? Yeah, I am too.
The goal differential of -19.
Yeah.
Out of the top 5 Atlantic teams, we're the only one with a negative goal differential. The Red Wings, the Sabres, and the Canadians all the way at the bottom of the Atlantic, -16, -12, Canadians -31. So that means, I'm not a big math guy, we are the second worst goal differential in the Atlantic right now. And that could easily be flipped if it wasn't for, you know, the fucking 8-1 loss to the Hurricanes, the 7-1, 8-1 loss to the Stars, whatever it was, the 8-1 loss to the Jets. Only 82 goals for, and 101 given up. But still, man, 35 points, 16, 13, and 3, exactly 500 technically right now. Yeah. It's a weird spot to be in, but, you know, they're continuing to just sit around. Something that I do want to bring up. Go ahead.
They're just mucking it up. They're just middle of the pack. And yeah, I looked at that too, with that goal differential. When we lose, we surely lose. There's no coming back.
So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's like, if we get to the playoffs, you know, it's like, you know, if we get into a game and we're down 4-1, it's like, all right, thanks, Bruins. I get to take the next 40 minutes of this game off. We know what's going to happen. We'll come back for game 2. It might not be something like, you know, last year where you're staying in and then you get a heartbreaking goal at the end. No, they just rip the Band-Aid off early for you. And they say, fuck it, we'll see you next game. So it's a blessing in disguise, I guess. But also something that's going to be a little worrisome. Once we get to playoff time, or once we get towards the end of the year, facing these good teams, like I've been saying for the last couple of weeks. One thing I do want to bring up, I was seeing a bunch of Bleacher Report and Twitter things about this week. Trent Frederick is getting a lot of trade interest currently. I don't know if there's been really any proposed trades or anything, and I don't know how real it is that we would move on from him. But it is interesting to know because of the fact that we did claim Oliver Wahlstrom from the Islanders off of waivers 2 days ago as another forward. 24 years old, 6'2", drafted 11th overall in 2016. I'm not too familiar with this guy, but if we went to go claim him off waivers, certainly they believe in something there. In the season so far, He had 27 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, a -6 plus minus so far. But you see this not only just in hockey all the time, but in just multiple different sports. You get into a different environment, you get to a different organization, under different coaching, in a different locker room that could potentially, boost you up a little bit and completely shift the way you play. Do you see him potentially making any impact? Not immediately, I don't think, but leading to the end of the year. And do you think it's going to, I don't know, help rejuvenate this offense a little bit if we keep it how it is, or if we move on from Frederick?
I don't think he was a top 6 forward. I know that the Islanders are definitely looking to unload a lot, change things up. I think that if anything, obviously I don't think he has the ability at this point of a Tyler Johnson, but the only problem with losing Frederick is how he's stood and taken on the goonsman role as well for this team. Although I know Kastelic will definitely look to have a fight, and Zadorov as well, but definitely Trent Frederick, who I thought a couple years back was a feisty little third line winger. Again, last year, feisty, fast, nothing. And now he's gone into this year that he'll look to fight to protect the top 6. So I'm a little leery about losing that, although we'll give Kastelic probably, as I said, more playtime. Tyler Johnson. You do have abundance of some forwards here that could probably fill that role out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't even know if it's something in which one move or even multiple moves would fix this team even this year. I feel like still on paper and everything, this team is set up and built to win. I think it's just getting it together. And I'm not panicking or anything, because before this week, with the Sacco, since he was appointed the interim head coach, they had been phenomenal. You can't expect that pace to go on all year. So that's why, you're going to take losses here and there, but I don't want to see 8-1 and 5-1 losses to start a West Coast trip. However, maybe that is just it. Going into a West Coast trip, the first one you have to play is against Winnipeg, and they fuck you up. And then you carry that in your head. You have to go play another West Coast game 2 days later. You lose to Seattle because the same thing, that's in your head. You're still on the West Coast. You're still trying to adjust. And then you finally get adjusted and you finally get those out of your system and get back to the team that you are for that Canucks game. And that shows in the 5-1 win. They're still just doing enough. And I feel like that's going to continue to be our message for the Bruins for a while now. Until, potentially maybe we do see a Frederick move, or we see a major line switch from Sacco that turns out to be the ones that we see for the rest of the year. I don't know what it needs to be. I don't want to call and pick and choose, what needs to happen. These guys need to play together, because that's what we were so pissed off about with Montgomery at the start of the year, was the constant changes and not letting guys get settled in. So I'm not going to call for that, because it's taking one step forward and fucking 5 steps back over the last couple weeks, but they're going to continue to hang around. And I feel like this team now, and with the new coach and, how they are, we are going to see a run from this team. And that is something encouraging, because the Montgomery-led Bruins to start this year, I would tell you for a fact, I did not see a run coming out of them. And when I mean a run, I mean like 7 out of 9 wins, 7-1-1. I still feel like it's due. And I still feel like we'll see it. Maybe we need to get to, a very easy part on our schedule, just to, get some easy points. And I'm fine with that because of how close the Atlantic is. But at a certain point, you are going to need to figure out how to beat these good teams.
Well, obviously, the glaring weakness, because lately the switch in philosophy has added more shots on net, even in our losses, more shots on net. The defensive pairings, I think, have stayed constant, and they are working, together fine. Still, McAvoy and Laurie are together, which I'm still very confused about. Two offensive defensemen. But the glaring weakness is our goaltender right now. Our number one goaltender.
And at this point, we try to give him the benefit of the doubt for the first 2 months. Oh, this is what happens when you don't sign until super late. When you don't get training camp, when you don't get the offseason really with the team. But I think it's something we got to start worrying about now. We are in December. We are halfway through December. Yep. We are about to get to the new year, and Swayman is not the same Swayman that we've seen. Is it a part? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's a mental thing. Still very young, and now thrust, even though he was calling for it, he wanted it, but to actually be the guy who's taking most of the nights in net, his 2 years prior to, he had Allmark, the safety blanket, and 1A and 1B. And if you didn't feel it that night, that's still fine. You still had Allmark. And it was that system. And yes, we've made a huge transformation to Sacco and his style. Obviously, offensively, we're putting up more shots than we would under Montgomery. And, in 2 games, we're doing it in 1. But still, Swayman is, I think it's a mental thing.
I'm happy you said that, because that was exactly what I was going to bring up, is just having the mindset of that 1A, 1B for so long. And this was the concern of a lot of Bruins fans when they were trying to get this contract figured out, was, are we really going to pay money to this guy that has never been a true one, who's always been a 1A, 1B? That was always the concern. I was hearing it all throughout the offseason. But then there were, the Swayman believers. And I'd say we're part of that group that, think, yes, there is the 1A, 1B mental hurdle, but the talent, I think, should always, keyword on should always overtake that mental hurdle of the 1A, 1B thing. And right now, I just don't, it's not. That's all it is.
I mean, he is extremely talented. He makes some incredible saves. But yet, I think when he gives up some quick ones, and again, that's why I go to the mentality part, he gives up some quick ones and he just doesn't see. And, if he did give up a quick 1 or 2 or 3 last couple of years, you pull him and you got Allmark. Korpisella has done well at times, but he is not Allmark.
Yeah, obviously. He has gotten a lot better, though. I mean, we were coming for his neck at the start of the year, but he's settled in and he's got a little better. But it's no longer 1A, 1B. It's 1 and then 3, honestly. There's a big drop-off. And, there's the mental hurdle of the 1A, 1B, and there's the mental hurdle of, like you're saying, I think Swayman just beats himself up a little bit too much if he lets some early ones in. And, I hope he can get it under control. If you let a couple in the first, you got to understand, if you get to that intermission, there's still 40 minutes of game time still to be played. So I don't know. It might just be something that coach got to talk to him, be like, hey, let's reset. Let's get back to square one. Let's just reset. This is a new season going forward. We are 30 games in think of these next 52 games or whatever it is as a new season. Just be a new guy. Maybe that's all he needs. Maybe he needs to hear that the team believes in him, that the coach believes in him, and just let him reset.
And unfortunately, when we are down in these games, we don't have, even though we're putting up a lot more shots on net per game, that the offensive, like, I'm going to score would come from David Pastrnak, and I haven't seen that from him. His mentality this year is setting everybody else up. Maybe because everyone is closing in on him, with all due right comparison, and defenses should look to shut him down, and he's setting up more. I mean, the other night, 3 assist game and a goal. Zaka, again, somebody we absolutely love, starting to turn it on. He needs to have a year that he had last year, but he has to be that goal scorer, not that assist guy that he was, that point guy for assists. If Pasta is turning into an assist man and not a goal scorer.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of stuff that needs to get figured out and will get figured out. I still have hope in this team. I still have hope in the coaching staff. Like I said earlier in the segment here, on paper, this team is good enough to still make a run. This team is still good enough to win a Stanley Cup. They just got to, tweak some little things, just figure it out, reset, get back to the Boston Bruins that we've been for the last couple of years. You still have retained a lot of these guys that have been on the team these last 2 years that were a part of a history-breaking team 2 years ago. And then you've added better guys through free agency and stuff this year. I think they just got to figure it out. I don't know how much longer we can continue to say this. They just have to figure it out. We'll give them, at least for me here talking on the podcast about it, we'll give them another 2 weeks. We'll get into the new year, and then we'll start to have the harder conversations if we need to, I think.
And you know what? If it's a Trent Frederick that you have to give up, he's not a top 6 for you. He's on your third line. If that guy has to leave the club to get somebody who might give it a spark, we already got one spark from a coaching change. And still you're positive on that end from that coaching change. You're not negative in wins and all. And obviously offensively we're doing better. If it is another player that has to go, out of the players I'm looking on right now, he's somebody I wouldn't mind having to lose.
Yeah.
And if it's somebody big you'd have to lose, I'm going to say this right now. I wouldn't mind, because I think you have somebody in that same style, younger. If you want to make a big splash, Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah. That one would kind of hurt, but it also, it would free up a lot of cap space as well. Remember, McAvoy's low-key bringing in a big check right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're not getting rid of Marchand, Pastrnak, Lindholm, Zadorov, Mason Lory, Marchand, yeah, Swayman, Carlo, Zaka. If you want to do something big to shake this up, I think he's the only guy that would make. He's wearing your A. That would shake shit up.
it would shake shit up, but you got to also realize too, it could shake shit up in the wrong way as well. So you're walking a fine line with moving a guy like McAvoy, but who knows?
But
We'll see,
he could be the only other guy that could bring something back in return that
True.
you need offensively.
True, definitely. All right, you got anything else about the Bruins?
Now, just I feel like they are right now the Red Sox at the beginning of the year when we said, "Oh, just 500 ball. It's 500 hockey, 500 puck."
So, by our calculations, then in 3 months, 4 months, we'll be talking about them like they're the best team in the league.
Yeah.
if they're gonna go along the same route that we had the Red Sox throughout this whole first year of the podcast. All right, we'll move on to the other team in TD. We got the Celtics continuing to do Celtics things. Very short week this week because of the fact that the NBA Cup was going on. Quite frankly, I don't know what's happening there. I don't care. But we got to play the Pistons on Thursday because these were the two games that were added because we didn't make the Cup. Played the Pistons on Thursday. Absolutely just put belt to ass, 123-99. And then if that wasn't enough, we beat the Wizards 112-98 last night in DC. Funny thing, actually, the Celtics at 3-0 in DC this year have more wins in DC than the Washington Wizards do. That's a great stat, isn't it? It's so fun. I mean, the Wizards are 3-21, so it makes a lot of sense. But I saw that stat earlier. I was laughing about that one. There really is not much I have to say here. The only thing we did have Porzingis leave a little early yesterday. Apparently, there's some injuries that are kind of lingering around for him. But I mean, we've seen this before. We saw it all throughout, the playoffs last year up until he came back in the finals. This team can win without him. It's a luxury to have him on the court. But I feel like he's probably going to be fine because of the fact that we can give him the time to rest. I saw a tweet about this. I wish I saved it so I could actually read it word for word, but it went something along the lines of, I don't, and I quote, it was like, I don't really care about watching Celtics regular season right now because we just know the expectation. And it's not that it's like not fun. It's kind of boring because of the fact that these guys have just figured out basketball. That's what it is. They have figured out basketball. I think everybody in the league knows this team is most likely going back to back. Yes, there's 5 losses on the record right now, and the losses don't even hurt me anymore. I'm not like, fuck, we should have won that game. I don't really care about them just because at the end of the day, and it took us a little bit last year to get to this point, but I'm already there this year. At the end of the day, healthy or not, there is not a team in this league that is beating us in a 7-game series. And so that's why it's like, let's just fast forward to the playoffs. I really don't care what happens here in the regular season. Whether we're the 1 or the 2 seed, whatever ends up happening in the East, I don't care. We're only 1 game behind the Cavs right now, 21-5 to their 22-4. And we're just too good, man. That's all it is.
Watched before the highlights of the Celtics Wizard match, and yes, the score at 112-98 kind of seemed a little bit handling our business. The defensive presence that we had last year just, and again, highlights, in a 10 minutes, 9-10 minutes, short little video on YouTube or the NBA or however they put it, they're showing more of the points and everyone, throwing down a big dunk here and there or whatnot. So it's not the whole game. And from what I saw, seemed as if we kind of kept Washington in the game. But yet, because we can hit the 3-point at any moment and having this incredible run with our percentages and numbers and everyone else throwing up these threes, makes the other team have to do that too, because you can't beat us 2 to, a regular basket, 2 basket, because we're going to hit the 3. So you have to, but at points, we're up 25 points and then you bring it back down to 10, Joe calls a timeout and then they go back up 15, 20 points. They're just toying with everybody else in the NBA right now.
They are. And when you talk about, you're worried about a little bit of the defensive presence that seem to be lacking from last year. I understand, but at the same time, I'll tell you exactly why that is. I'm staring at it right now. At 21-5, we have only had one game where our top 6 players, that is our starters and Al Horford, have all played in the same game through 26. 26 games, we've only had one where we've had all 6 of them. And I think that's it right there. But still, you're finding out ways to win games. And like you said, just toy with teams. They're just playing with their food. They're having fun. And they've solved basketball. Go back to that again. Let me preface this by saying, I saw on top of that tweet that I mentioned earlier, somebody replied to it and said, yes, I think we all get the point that, the Celtics are going back to back. No team is beating them in a 7-game series. However, the back-to-back is imminent. But if they want to three-peat, they are going to need to make a move in the offseason for some other player that is going to contribute or do something that's going to, make a position deeper or, just make it a little better. I don't know what it needs to be. Do you see us needing to make a trade mid-season this year to really lock down that back-to-back, or is it something that we'll be fine to, cruise control through this year and then, maybe a Derek White or a Drew Holiday or something in order to bring in maybe more youth or a little more depth in order to go with a three-peat? Is that something that you could see in the cards?
I would. Obviously, we have fallen in love with these guys, love the way that they all play and can guard, Drew and Derek White, 1 through 5. I think what we need, although unfortunately, and I saw something as well of Brian Simmons, if he's available.
Ben Simmons?
I mean, Ben Simmons. Thank you.
Jesus fucking Christ. That might be one of your worst ones ever, Dad. The number 1 pick, like one of the biggest busts of all time. You're telling me you thought it was Brian Simmons?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That's why you're here. That's why this podcast is so phenomenal. I make stupid games.
We say we know ball, and then you say shit like
well,
that.
I did. I got Simmons. I got that. But I saw that. I mean, if you bring that would give you what? Depth at a number of positions. Somebody who obviously is not going to want to take the ball to score and set everybody else up. The only thing is, if you bring somebody in of that caliber, what does that do to the rotation, to the minutes, to the guys playing right now?
He'd play like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be anything. He'd take over some of Cornette or Keita's minutes or something like that.
Yeah. So that I guess gives someone of that ability, not a star, but as you said, somebody to add some depth. Although do you want to put somebody else who's been injury plagued in his career when you're already dealing with Porzingis?
I think
we would need somebody, a big. I'd rather see a big rather than another guard.
I mean, he's not a guard. He's 6'10". He's played like a guard. He's taken the ball up before. He did that a bunch in college. With him playing only, like I said, 10 to 12 minutes, he wouldn't be.
But he's not a rim protector. He's not going to be a shot blocker. That's something else we need.
Yes, but you mentioned the injury concerns. If he's only playing 10 to 12 minutes, like I think maybe 8, I don't think you have to worry about that too much. I think a lot of it too, like what happened in Philadelphia, a lot of it was mental with him too. He just, there was so much expectations behind him and didn't live up to it. And I mean, if you're not going to live up to expectations in a city like Philadelphia, it's one of the worst fucking sports cities to do it in, with their fans and everything like that. So it just gets to him. Maybe you're not giving 100% in your training and in the game and everything like that, and then it leads to more injury because you're not doing it for the right reasons. And so I think some of that goes into it. I don't think, obviously, though, yes, you're not bringing him in as a rim protector. You're probably not bringing him in as that much of a defensive presence. You'd be bringing him in because of the fact that he, with his size, with his speed, it's his versatility that you're bringing him in for. You're not looking for him to be your guy for the 3 ball. Obviously, he can't fucking shoot. But he can move the ball. He's got a great eye. He always has.
Yep.
To move the ball, which would work just so well in our system and allowing the other guys to play on the perimeter and get their good shots. And in terms of if you have a guy like Keita or if you have a guy like Ben Simmons on the court for your second team, for your bench team that comes in, the second rotation, teams are going to pay a closer attention to him offensively of, all right, well, we got to stay in front of him. He might not be here to be shooting and everything, but if you give him a lane to the hoop, he can still get there, and he is physical and he's big and he could do that. And whereas, Joe Mazzulla Ball is live and die by the 3, it would add an extra element of a guy that can and will go to the hoop for us when, the threes just aren't falling.
And having, you just mentioned, and we talked, another, TD Garden team with mental. I know you're looking at me weird. Joe Mazzulla, or I'm sorry, Swayman, we're talking mentalness. If Ben Simmons, said his name correctly, had a mental thing last year or in Philadelphia, coming into a club that has, players that are incredible around him, he's not going to have to be the guy.
Yeah. One of the best, probably the best place in the NBA to, if you are having mental hurdles, to be able to get over that, why not do it in the best organization in NBA history, but also the best organization in the NBA now, in the best system, and everybody's playing for each other. And it's one of those, if you have a bad game, Jalen and Jason and everybody on that team still going to be there to pick you up and be like, all right, next shot, next play, just keep it going. So I don't know. If we see it happen, it'll be for cheap. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, when the first news of like potentially one of the guys getting moved for the Celtics, Jaden Springer, I think that would be the sort of price. Jaden and maybe some second round picks or something like that. We still have 5 future firsts coming up in like the next 3 years because Brad Stevens is just working wonders in that front office. You don't move a first for Ben Simmons at this point in his career, but Jaden Springer and maybe something else. Jaden Springer and Xavier Tillman or something. But it's also like you gotta weigh, is it worth it to go get him and move on from a Tillman and a Springer and lose a guy in the depth? Or, do you just maintain the status quo and stay where you're at? You could move on from a Tillman and a Springer and everything like that, though, because of Jordan Walsh and his resurgence this year and how great he's been, not only when he's been playing NBA minutes, but also down in the G League. But who knows? Like, I'm not calling for it. I don't know if I'd necessarily be ecstatic if the trade does happen. I would need to see it and see how it actually plays out on the court. But at the same time, I don't think this team needs to make any moves by any means.
No, they don't need to make a move, but
turn down your mic real quick there.
How's this?
Up a little more. There you go.
How's this? All right.
There you go.
I don't know. I didn't do anything. It just
I don't know.
Did that. Yeah, we don't need to make a move. I think it would be fun to get somebody of that caliber, especially, we're all excited last year of Porzingis when he came on. Again, we're just toying with the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing to think about too with Ben, he is still on a fat contract right now. Now, granted, I don't know how much of that salary would be, taken up by, I think he's with the Nets still, I believe. Yes, he is still with the Nets. I don't know how much of that contract the Nets would then pay.
Yeah.
But his cap hit is $40 million this year. Now, granted, he is an unrestricted free agent after this year, so it's not like you're paying that money next year. But if you feel like you just need just a little bit more, I guess you go and make the trade. But whatever, man.
I just saw us link to him potentially, and I know Brooklyn probably wants to move on, and again, they probably, the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent, I would assume they would take a good, decent portion of that contract on, because we said it. We saw the same thing. It would be cheap.
Yeah.
If he's coming here.
Exactly. All right. You got anything else about the Celtics here?
No, we're just toying with the NBA.
All right. On to the last one. The Patriots, 30-17 loss to the Cardinals yesterday. I was going to say this week. Yesterday. Not much to say about the loss. We're tanking. That's fine. We're going for, the fraudulent Heisman and Travis Hunter at the 3 spot. But okay. Drake May great and everything. Another unbelievable performance. He is just wonderful. We say this every week. People are going to go, the idiots are going to go and say, well, I'm a box score watcher and he's got an interception. Well, I swear to God, 5 out of the last 7 interceptions that he's thrown have been tipped passes. This one this week was just terrible by Kayshawn. Just fucking juggling it up, throws it to the other receiver. People are saying, well, he could have led him, and he wouldn't have bobbled that. No, Drake May was looking out for Kayshawn. If he leads him on that pass, that's a hospital pass. Kayshawn is knocked the fuck out. Kayshawn's either got to catch that ball or you bat it to the ground. And that's something he'll learn. He is still a young receiver. I know he did come out after the game. Somebody asked him about it, and he was like, well, it is hard when the ball is behind you. And it was like, I don't really want to hear that. I don't think you should say that about your quarterback that was very much protecting you on that pass. But at the same time, like I said, we lose because we're tanking. It's fine. I think it might be time to have a conversation about Jerod Mayo, Dad.
Oh my God, I can't believe you brought this up. And we did not stage this. I called for Jim's job, and it happened probably within a week after I called for it. Yeah, I agree. Jerod is just outclassed as a coach. He cannot
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't think he can make the right decisions enough. He's outmatched each and every week. And you got outmatched by the Cardinals.
Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it shows as to why Bill Belichick never had this guy calling plays. And I think that is very evident now. Because I know some people are very excited about the hire, and us included, especially within the organization. Players, coach, they're going to love him. They wanted him. Kraft, this was always the plan. He always wanted Mayo to be in here. But it's getting very, very tough to defend this guy. Not only with just what's happening on the field, but this constant cycle of, somebody said it perfectly on Twitter. We went from a coach that never said enough to now a coach that's saying too much in post-game pressers. And yet we're running into this constant cycle every Sunday. You play a game, you underperform, you make bad coaching decisions, you go into the post-game presser, you say something that you should not say, and then you walk it back on Monday and say, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
This has happened way too many times now. And I love the guy. I really do. But I think, when we were talking about this hire, we were a little excited for it, but we did also bring up, you got to be a little hesitant of it because of the fact that he was never a defensive coordinator. He never called the plays. He jumped a few steps right up there to the head coach. And I think it's definitely showing. Kraft has apparently Kraft and multiple people in the organization have assured him that he will still be here next year. And quite frankly, I think that's fine if Ben Johnson is not available. If Ben Johnson from Detroit is offered a contract or wants to come here and coach this team with Drake May, both UNC graduates, and wants to have a young quarterback to build around with a great offensive mind like he is, I love you, Mayo, but you got to go. You have to make that move if you're the Patriots.
If you can get Ben Johnson, who I think would probably just absolutely salivate with a Drake May, who week in and week out continues to look like Josh Allen 2.0.
And Mahomes. I mean, did you see that fucking shovel pass that he had to Mario?
Pass.
Oh my God. And then the rushing touchdown at the end of the game. I mean, he's just phenomenal.
Yeah. I think he's more athletic than Patrick. Sure, the arm angles that he can throw and just the way that he can make plays, again, that shovel pass are things that Patrick does, that Josh does. But his running ability is Josh Allen 2.0.
Oh yeah. Actually, if I can find, I think I bookmarked it. Got a great stat here. Here we go. All-time minimum 30 rushes. Most rushing yards per attempt in first NFL season. Mike Vick, number one, at 9.32 rushing yards per game in 2001. Let me beat around the bush here. In fifth place, Keaton Mitchell at 8.43 in 2023. Beatty Feathers, 8.44 in 1934. Felix Jones at 8.87 in 2008. And sitting right there at second, 9.08 rushing yards per attempt, Drake May. He is Vanilla Vic. And it's unbelievable. I mean, I saw something this week that had, I think it was a Bleacher Report post, said, give us a bold prediction about the 2025 NFL season. And I replied to it. And I said, Drake May will finish next year with the most rushing yards out of all quarterbacks. And I actually think I'm going to stand by that. Over Lamar, over Josh Allen, over any of them, Jaden Daniels. Because if you get this guy a better O-line and potentially better just offensive play calling, there's going to be some designed runs for him. And he's going to continue to make plays happen that aren't there with his legs like he's doing this year already. But I think a lot of that is contingent upon better offensive play calling. I don't know if it is 100% Alex Van Pelt's fault. I think a lot of this falls on Mayo's plate. And I don't know if AVP would stay if Ben Johnson came. I think there's a lot of uncertainty there, but it'll be interesting to see this season. Jerod's not going to get fired midseason, but he's definitely be on a hot seat this offseason. And if Ben Johnson comes knocking at the door in Foxborough, I find it very hard that they're going to let him walk out of there without a contract.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that would bring him here is that UNC connection that you just mentioned. I mean, that guy's going to have a number of teams going to be calling after him.
Bears, most specifically.
Bears, I could see the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, even the way that Atlanta's finishing up now. And then you have a young Michael Penix Jr. I mean,
maybe, or even the Jets, because I don't think there's any world in which Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet next year. So you bring in Ben Johnson, you draft a quarterback, and then he's got a young quarterback there as well. But I think we've got the leg up on him, like I said, because of the UNC connection. One other thing I want to throw at you here about the Pats. If it is the case that Ben Johnson is the new head coach for us next year, do you think, and there's a lot of things that go into this, do you think Mayo gets demoted and stays on staff as a defensive coordinator, or do you think he's fired entirely? And if that's the case, I don't think he gets another coaching job anywhere in the league.
No, I don't think he gets demoted. I think you still have to find a so-called old Patriot way if you want to keep it, and you bring in Variable as your DC.
Yeah. I mean, I know now, we went through. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if Mayo is not fired, do you have, though, a Vrabel? Can you bring him on as that associate head coach? Someone to help Covington on the defensive side of the ball.
I think he would. I think he'd still be the DC. I think Covington would get demoted or fired because, I mean, when we saw the appointment of him to DC when Mayo, that one was a bit confusing. I think he's gone regardless this year. The defense, while they've had their games, the games where they don't have their games have looked fucking horrendous.
Yes. Yeah. The secondary, which was a bright spot for us, has looked, outside of Gonzalez, looked
lost.
Like they're chasing
every Sunday.
They're lost and chasing. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's obviously the positions that they're being put in, the play call that they're being put in.
I think if Vrabel comes on, he would come on as a DC, but then it also goes down to, Vrabel was a head coach, right? And we know Mike Vrabel. And he's, he's with Cleveland right now. He's still well connected within football. He is very aware of how this Patriots team is going and how Mayo is coaching the team. I don't know if he's offered, if he's going to be like, yeah, I'll take it, or if he would come back to say, I don't want to be DC because I could 100% do it better than he's doing it right now.
Right.
That's the only thing
Right.
I worry about.
I mean, obviously the brain trust, I would love it, but I don't see. I think Mike is too alpha, and Jerod, if he hasn't already lost the locker room, would definitely lose it.
Yeah. And I mean, this
And
goes all the way back to, remember when we did our blind rankings of our top 5 like coordinators and head coach pairings, and we had Vrabel head coach, Mayo OC or Mayo DC, and AVP OC or fucking Ben Johnson or something. But Ben Johnson's not going from Detroit OC to Pats OC at this point. He would come in for a head coach job. Well, I don't know. It'll be a lot.
The bottom line is this. Unfortunately, yes, we like the guy. He was a great middle linebacker when he played. He was a coach on the field, but there's a lot. He moved way too fast up the ranks without all those other finer details and especially being a DC. There's calling timeouts at the right time, all those things, just getting the team in position. And then not only that, but then having Alex Van Pelt, who originally we were calling for under Jacoby, and Covington as his DCs. That his decision to make them his top 2 coordinators has, I think, shown a lot as well. So I don't want to say it, but I'm calling for it. We need a new change.
And this, look, I'm sorry to say it, but this is what happens when you completely abandon an actual head coaching search. Because there were candidates this last offseason. There definitely were. But we didn't even give them fucking interviews. Vrabel didn't get an interview.
Yeah.
Nobody got an interview. This is what happens when you abandon that time that you have in the offseason to do exactly this, to find the right head coach, to, cross off the guys that aren't going to work and circle the guys that will, and then narrow it down between a couple fine selections. This is what happens, and this is what it gets you. We knew this team was probably going to be record-wise where we're at now anyways. We knew this was a rebuilding year. But outside of the record and outside of what's happening on the field every Sunday, there is a lot of other problems that are stemming from the fact that you didn't look hard enough.
And even if you wanted Jerod all the time, at least interview others. So either A, you can tell Jerod, this is what we learned from Ben Johnson's interview. This is how he would, run a program.
Yeah, apply this to your team.
Yeah. I know that you said this, but we really like this part that he was going to do. Can you do that?
Yeah.
What's Jerod going to say at that point? No.
Yeah,
I'm not going to change my
don't get the job.
No. Yeah. But, I just think that, again, you do not want to be the guy to follow the guy. And he is following Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Drake May is not following Tom Brady at this point. He's following Mac Jones.
Yeah. No, he's much better than Mac. And
right.
We are still in a better position than we were with Mac Jones at quarterback offensively. But as a whole team, we are steps behind that 2020 team in terms of bringing in a rookie quarterback. I hate to, we said this a couple weeks ago with Jim and everything, and we hate to call for somebody's job, but I think it's been enough time.
Hey, that's our job. We're in the media.
I think the Mayo experiment just has not worked out.
Nope.
Breaking news. Chiefs released Clyde Edwards-Helaire, former first-round pick. I just find that kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay. You got anything else about the Pats?
No.
All right. What we're going to do here before we end this off, I don't really care to go through these NFL games at this point until once we get to playoffs and start doing those. But what I will do is, where is it? We've got some bowl games this week. Bowl season is upon us. As we
Wait a minute. Wait. You're not even going to discuss our former coach going to college?
No, of course not. I don't want to. I actually don't want to. Bill Belichick went to UNC. There you go. There's the time. I don't want to talk about this. This was the worst day of my life. I joked about this, and please, listeners, don't get me wrong. This is a joke. That news coming across my phone felt like 9/11. I hated that. That was the worst thing because the one thing, he could have went anywhere else. Even the Jets, who have came out and said that they reached out to his camp. And I would have been like, all right. But he went to the one place I hate the most out of sports in UNC. No, I don't want to talk about it. It sucks because now the greatest coach in my lifetime, my favorite coach of all time, I'm going to be actively rooting on his downfall throughout his whole contract. I have already bet the under on Carolina's win total next year. I don't want to see them win at all. It sucks because it has now tainted his legacy for me because I hate them so much. So no, I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, so bowl season is here. We've got college football playoff games on Friday and Saturday.
Oh.
We start off some bowls tomorrow.
Let me pull that up. I was all ready to go. I know some of our listeners really wanted to hear.
I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm sorry, listeners. We're not talking about that one. Memphis at West Virginia in the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. That's a funny one to say. Tomorrow at 9:00 on ESPN. Memphis favored by 4.5 points, over under 58.5.
Oh, just pulled it up. Down in Frisco, huh?
Yep.
It'd be interesting to see, does Jerod get an opportunity to coach this one, although he was just hired a couple days ago. Does he spark something up with West Virginia? But I will take Memphis.
Yeah, I'll also be taking Memphis. I'll take Memphis in the points, even with potentially the new coach. What's that? Rod Rodriguez or something?
Rich Rod. Yeah, Rod Rodriguez.
Rich Rodriguez.
Rich Rodriguez. Yep.
Even with it and everything, and might rejuvenate this team again. He's coming back to West Virginia. And I mean, I saw the Pat McAfee show was there when they did the introductory press conference and everything the other day. And there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of energy in West Virginia about this hire, but that was as
much hype as the UNC hire.
Stop doing this, dude. Fuck it. Memphis minus 4.5. Western Kentucky at James Madison in the Boca Raton Bowl. 5:30 on Wednesday. James Madison minus 6.5 points. Over under 51.5.
I'm taking.
You're really just looking to get under my fucking skin with this.
Yeah,
Shut up about it. I don't care.
I'm taking James Madison on this over Western Kentucky. Obviously James Madison, a program that did well last year, should have been ranked, playing on even maybe a New Year's 6 last year because of what they did. I think they continue. And as well, it's a school with a name, James Madison, much like Bill Belichick is a name.
If Western Kentucky didn't get the fucking brakes beat off of them by Jacksonville State in that conference championship game, 52-12, I would maybe say Western Kentucky could stay in this a little bit. But no, I'll also take James Madison and the points here. They stayed competitive with some of the best teams in their conference this year with Marshall and App State, even going to beat the brakes off of Coastal Carolina, Georgia State, which are sometimes good teams in that conference. And they also hung 70 on those piece of shit Tar Heels fucking face earlier in the year as well. There's your Bill Belichick reference for you. Okay. Fuck that team. Give me James Madison in the points. Later on that night, 9 p.m., California at number 24 UNLV in the Art of Sport LA Bowl. I actually think this one, if I'm not mistaken, is hosted by Gronk, I think, which would be, I think it was one of them that it is. It's the LA Bowl, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So Gronk will be hosting it. Super fun. Cal is favored by 1 point over under 48.5.
I really can't say. I mean, I know Cal started to turn it on in the ACC, although I think, potentially they'll have more difficulty playing this upcoming year in the ACC, especially with UNC. But yet having this game hosted by Gronk, who absolutely loves Vegas, where his buddy Tom Brady, who was both coached under Bill Belichick at one point.
I'm going to mute you. This is terrible.
I'm taking UNLV.
You're taking the long way around. You're beating around the bush every time. Give me UNLV.
I am.
Yeah, Cal.
This is getting fun. This is getting fun. How I can do this each game.
UNLV. Give me the. And they're not favored. I would think they would be favored here. California's probably favored because of the fact that it is in LA. But while California, they started off the year hot, once they got into deep into conference play, they just could not compete really with the best teams in the ACC. And whereas UNLV was not playing the caliber of teams that they were throughout the year, they still kept it pretty competitive with Boise State both times that they played. On offense and defense, I just think they are clearly the better team. And this isn't as much of a home field advantage as you'd think for Cal because of UNLV only coming over from a state. If you're going to give me them probably at plus money here too, let me see what ESPN Bet has. Oh no, it's actually minus 110. I'm sure I can get them somewhere for plus money, and I'll be taking it. Give me UNLV. Thursday, the only bowl that we have Thursday, 7:00. God, this is so awesome, man. We have college football fucking every day for the next 3 weeks. Georgia Southern at Sam Houston in the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. 7:00, like I mentioned, Georgia Southern is favored by 6 points over under 48.5.
Sam Houston, another school recently that moved up from the FBS level. Yeah, I think it's a fun team. Georgia Southern, I think, is going to try and run the rock while Sam Houston will be passing. And I'm going to take Sam Houston in a place that Bill Belichick has won a Super Bowl.
You're actually flip-flopped on this one. Sam Houston will be running the ball. Georgia Southern will be passing the ball. Sam Houston is 29th in the nation right now with 190 yards on the ground per game. Georgia Southern 52nd in the nation with 239.9 passing yards per game and 102nd in the nation with rushing. Sam Houston, the way that they won games these years, yes, some of them blowouts or some of them shootouts that they won. But you look towards the end of the year, games against FIU, at FIU, a 10-7 win, at home against Louisiana Tech, 9-3, lose to Jacksonville State, 21-11, beat Liberty 20-18. They're going to try to keep this game on the ground, running the clock, and just try to stay in it. However, I don't think they're going to be able to do that enough for the full game. And I think Georgia Southern, by the end of the third and the fourth quarter, are going to be able to pull this out, throw the rock on them. Defensively, I just don't think Sam Houston is going to match up well here, and I'll be taking Georgia Southern in the points.
Okay.
All right. See, now I'm looking ahead for how you could insert Bill Belichick in any of these fucking things. The Friday, December 20th, the first day of our college football playoffs, but we'll get to the other ones before that. Miami of Ohio. No, that's just actually Ohio, not Miami of Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio Bobcats at Jacksonville State. The Staff DNA Cure Bowl at noon on ESPN. Ohio is favored by 3 points over under 54.5.
I think Mac Nation comes. Ohio will win it, especially from a state in which Bill Belichick was a coach in at one point in the program.
Oh my fucking God. You don't stop. You don't stop. I'd side with Ohio here too. Probably with the 3. I don't think that I would bet the line. More so, I'm 100% taking the over in this game. These two teams can score, but I expect minimal defense to be played here. And like you're saying, the Maction is going to show up for Ohio. Yep. The Maction is fun, and we're going to see some high flying freaking fireworks. The Maction is going to come all the way from Ohio down to Florida. Give me the over. Give me Ohio money line. Might parlay them together. It's another Florida game. Tulane at Florida, Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN2. Florida is favored by 13.5 over under 49.5.
As much as Florida's been turning it on, and I do believe they will win, I will take Tulane in the points. It's way too many points for Florida to cover. But it is a game in which where Tom Brady had finished off his career, who again was coached under Bill Belichick.
Okay. So this line definitely weird to me at first, but now that I think of it, this line is probably because the Tulane quarterback he already entered the transfer portal and already has committed to Duke, actually, who will be playing Carolina and Bill Belichick next year and beating the shit out of them. So I'm assuming that's why this line is so big. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for Tulane because I also think their second quarterback in Ty Thompson.
I think it's Steve Belichick.
I think their second quarterback in Ty Thompson, who used to be Oregon, highly touted Oregon recruit a couple years ago, was thought to be the next big Oregon quarterback. I think he's also entering the transfer portal, so they're probably down to their third string quarterback here. This is still a lot of points, but this Florida team, after starting the year very slow, remained very competitive, coming off of 3 straight wins to end the year, beating ranked LSU, ranked Ole Miss, and just absolutely stomping Florida State, but they stink. Outside of, the Texas game where they got wiped on, remained competitive with Georgia. That's a 2-touchdown game. Beat Kentucky. Remained very competitive with Tennessee. That was the game that I was at in Knoxville. And, when you saw that team play in person defensively, if they're going to lock in, they're going to be very, very good here. I'll take Florida in the points. I think they're begging you to take Tulane plus 13.5 because that line is so big. But in Florida, right down there in Tampa, yes, Tulane doesn't have that far of a drive or a flight to make, but the home field advantage I think is going to be huge for Florida there, and I'll take the points with them. All right, and then the first college football playoff first round game, we got the Battle of Indiana here. Indiana, number 10 at Notre Dame, number 7, 8 o'clock on ABC and ESPN. This line has moved since we first talked about these games last week. The line is now Notre Dame -7, over under 51.5. I know we talked about these games last week, but these are now our final predictions for these games that we're about to cover. Dad, what do you think?
All right, and I'm done with the Bill Belichick humor because this means some stuff here. So that's it. No more. I promise. And since I've already made my predictions on the new era college bowl bracket, which hopefully you listeners want to get involved in and try and win it, If so, you will win a prize. Yet to be determined. I still feel Indiana has been a Cinderella. Their coach, Google him, just wins. But you are going into South Bend, Indiana. And I know you play as well in Indiana, but you didn't do well in the horseshoe. I don't think they're going to do well against Notre Dame. That's a lot of points. I think it's going to be closer, but I'm taking Notre Dame money line, and I will take the over.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the total, but I know last week I said Indiana in the points. That was when they were at like 8.5 because I like that because it gave you a touchdown still. Now it's 7. I might buy this line down to 6.5 to get a touchdown with Notre Dame. I flipped sides. I do think Notre Dame ends up winning this game. I have them advancing in my bracket for the college football playoff. I just think it's going to be too much. I've seen some behind the scenes stuff from Notre Dame this last week. They had Manti Te'o in there to talk to the team, I believe last Thursday. That beautiful speech was talking about how, this is their opportunity to write history, how they get an opportunity that millions of Americans, millions of people, quite frankly, don't get every year. And that is the opportunity to write history. He goes on to say, I did a lot of things here at Notre Dame. I wrote a lot of history. I was in, the Heisman running. I was multiple tackle records, all of this. But the one thing I wasn't able to write was a national championship for Notre Dame. And then he goes on to say, play for each other, do all this. All we care about right now is the history that the 2024 Notre Dame football team writes. And I saw that, and I almost ran through a brick wall. And Notre Dame is going to go a lot farther in this than I think, or than I originally thought. Give me Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame minus 6.5 if I can get it. I'll probably even take 7. No, this team is hungry, and they are good. Indiana, very feel good story, incredible year. Nothing to hang your head on, but these are the moments that Notre Dame football is built for, and Indiana is going to learn that very quickly at the start of this game. All right, and then Saturday, which could quite possibly be the best day of football ever. We have about 3 NFL games, and we have 3 college football first-round playoff games. We'll start off at 12 o'clock on TNT and Max. SMU at Penn State. Penn State, this line I don't think has moved. Penn State minus 8.5, over under 53.5.
And again, and I'm going to stay with what I said last week. I don't think Penn State can keep up with the athleticism, the speed that SMU has. I know it's going to be cold. I know they're going to go up there. But, for Penn State, their quarterback has to have a game, and he has to be able to throw, not run. The team can't run, can't ball control. Has to be able to throw to the smaller SMU DBs, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm still picking the first upset. SMU beats Penn State.
Yep, I agree. I'm not switching my side here. I definitely think we were right about it when we talked about it the first time, and we're still right about it here. Give me SMU plus 8.5. Give me SMU to win this game outright. It's going to come down to, like I think you mentioned last week, here's how I think of it. What do I trust more? Is it an SMU team coming out here and shitting the bed, or do I trust more in James Franklin making a costly mistake that has Penn State football in a big game written all over it? And that's what I trust. And so give me SMU, give me the points, give me them to win outright. Skol Mustangs. 4:00, also on TNT, Clemson at Texas. Texas, this line, I think it moved a little bit. Texas minus 11.5, over under 51.5.
Yeah, definitely had moved, I think, upward. And I know it's, seems to be a home field, or yeah. What am I saying? All these games are in their stadium in their first round. But loved what you said about Cade Klubnik coming back home against Quinn Ewers, how he seemed to own him in high school. I'm staying with Clemson. I think the coaching, again, I think Stark makes some stupid mistake to cost the game. I'm thinking Clemson.
I'm still 100% on Clemson, plus 11.5 and the money line. Especially, I feel even better about it, especially because the news that's been circulating around this last week that it's looking like Quinn Ewers may stay another year, but not in Texas, maybe transferring to somewhere else because he's gonna get offered an absolutely wild NIL check from some of the bigger programs like in Oregon, Ohio State, something like that. I think you got to keep that in mind. There's the mental hurdle of beating this Cade Klubnik guy who seems to have your number, and you got to get over the mental hurdle of the fact that you might just be checked out. For Quinn, it might be like hey, if I win the national championship, maybe that, puts my draft stock where I need it to be to get into the first round for me to not come back. But I don't think that's going to work even if they were to win it all. I think he would stay regardless. So I don't think he's 100% there. And I'll take Clemson money line, and I'll take Clemson plus 11.5.
Yeah, with that being said, at some point Stark has got to make a decision. Does he put the future in Arch Manning, which is going to cause, potentially some stuff within the players themselves.
Yeah, it's got to be. Do that?
When do you do?
Does Quinn start off slow and then you get into the second quarter and then you go to Archie for the rest of the second? You go to halftime. You talk to Quinn. You put him back out there. There's just so much that you don't know that could go on here that I don't like it. There's too much uncertainty. I could definitely see this, like you're saying, be slow start for Quinn against the Clemson defense. Archie comes in. Archie might not even look that great because, you're thrown into not only a college football playoff first round game, but against a Clemson defense, a Clemson team. You could be down against a Clemson team and Dabo, who have the second most college football playoff appearances outside of Georgia with 7, or Alabama with 7 right now. I like the experience of Dabo and Clemson here with just too much going on in Texas for my liking. So yeah, we're sticking on that side. And then the last game of the night, Tennessee at Ohio State, 8:00 on ABC and ESPN. Ohio State -7, over under 47.5.
With much deliberation this week, I'm going to flip. Because, yes, Tennessee is a talented program. You've said you absolutely love them when you went to Knoxville. But after seeing Ryan Day, and hey, Bella, after seeing Ryan Day after Michigan planting that flag, or attempting, and then the fight pursuing, he looks like he himself has kind of checked out of that program, and I'm going to go Tennessee.
Yes. We're both with the Vols here. Too many points. Give me the Vols +7. Give me the Vols money line. Give me the under. I'm going to bet everything in this game. And yeah, I just don't think. I don't know if Ohio State's going to come out here as like mean and aggressive as they think they are to really, make up for that loss to Michigan. I think that really not only did Michigan beat them on the field, but Michigan broke that team.
Yeah.
They broke that team. So much so did you see an Ohio State spokesperson or something, some sort of representative in the Ohio government proposed a bill that teams are no longer allowed to plant flags at the center of Ohio Stadium. That is the most sore loser shit I've ever heard. And if that's the team that you're bringing into a first round college football playoff game, there's no fucking way I'm staying with you. Give me the Vols outright. Give me the Vols +7 and give me the under. Yeah, this one's too easy for me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all of them then. We won't get into any of the other ones next week because I'm sure we'll do those on next week's episode. That's it. That's all I've got. Dad, you got anything else here before I wrap us up?
Yeah, two things. So we have to, if you want to enter in, you have to get your picks in by Thursday, you want to say? 8 o'clock?
Oh, I think it's Friday by the time the game starts. Let me look. I was just looking at it actually. And while I'm looking at this, I'm going to post it to Twitter. What? I can't post it on Instagram or anything because there's no clickable link. So if you would like to join our pool here, how do I do this? Here we go. If you would like to join our pool, go look at our Twitter at A New Era Podcast, and the link will be there for you. Just make sure to join before the first game so you can get all of your picks in. You do have to pick for the whole bracket. You can't just go round by round. I think you have to do the whole thing, pick your national champion, and then there's no switching it throughout or anything. But that's where it's going to be. We would love to have some of you guys in there as well and try to beat us. I think it'll be really fun. We hope to have some engagement there, and hopefully one of the listeners can beat us. I would love to. I would love to give out a prize for this. Honestly, show us that you know ball more than us. Show us that you know ball more than the Brian Simmons guy over here.
Oh yeah, Brian Simmons. Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, before you get us off, how did this week's NFL poll go?
What?
Our NFL picks? Yeah.
Let me look. I don't think you won this week. Because we're tied. We're tied at 11-11 right now. You beat me last week by 3. So it's 150. I'm 150-72 to your 147-75 right now. How do I see weekly results? Oh, you picked the Pats. Sad. And then we both have the same picks tonight in Minnesota and Atlanta. So it'll stay a 3-game lead regardless as we go into the last 3 weeks of this NFL season. Very tight race. It can all be flipped in 1 week. It's really going to come down to the wire, probably come down to week 18. So, hey, good stuff. Good way to keep it going here.
Awesome.
You got anything?
Nope.
All right. Well, that is it for episode 50. Crazy to say. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. As always, if you would like to keep up with us outside of our episodes, go ahead and follow us on social media at A New Era Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, A New Era Podcast on Facebook. And if you'd like to email us any questions, concerns, or funny business, anewerapodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you listeners once again, and we cannot wait to be back in your ears for episode 51 next week.
Love you, son.
Love you, Dad.